If you love teaching or, love delivering whatever it is you deliver, but you really dislike selling, you wish it wasn't a part of what you had to do, then this episode is for you. If you've known me a while, then you'll know that I'm not a fan of aggressive and pushy sales styles. I don't really like fear-based selling. I like relationship-based selling and relaxing into it, finding your own style, finding your own voice. Now, although we can be fluid with certain elements of how we sell, there are some staple things that I want to share with you because I know they work. And actually, I'm sharing some tried and tested strategies, things that have been working for years. And I learned some of these through my recent certification with the Institute of Sales. Now, this isn't going to be all fluffy theory. It's going to be actionable things, but also things that you can really mold to your particular business, to your specific style. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Upgrade Your Education Business podcast. I'm your host, Samantha, and I'm so pleased you're here. As an education business owner myself and a former teacher, I understand the nuances that only apply to us. So in this podcast, I share fluff-free, tailored and actionable ideas that you can mould to suit your needs. If you'd like to take this conversation further, please do reach out. I would love to meet you. And finally, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review. That way, you'll be helping me help more people. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy. Okay, so let's get ready to relax into selling, to find a style that we like and know what really works. Now, if you want more on this, I will quickly mention that I'm going to deep dive next month in the Tutors Mastermind. Last month, we actually did a 3-day sales sprint where I touched on a few things that are quick that you can set yourself up with. But now we're going to actually create an in-depth sales strategy that's really molded to us. So if you're listening at the time of this being released, then it's not too late to join us. Remember that everything we do in the mastermind is recorded, so you get instant access when you join. But obviously, there's something quite nice about the live element. You get to ask questions and so on. But even if you don't worry about it. At the end of each month, I go live with Q&A, and you still have access to me through the community. So if you want more, if you want something really in depth and something that you can just follow long after we've finished working together, come and join us in the mastermind. It'll be really good timing to join now. Now, I want to start with the actual sales call. One of the biggest mistakes that I see education business owners make is treating sales calls like casual conversations. Or actually, not just that, but also where they see it as something where it's about a discussion about logistics. We want something in between. Because the truth is, we are excellent communicators. I mean, it's our bread and butter, isn't it? If we're an educator, we know how to communicate. This isn't about knowing how to communicate. It's actually seeing a sales call as something that's really intentional. So for it to be intentional, it needs to have a structure. Even if it's 15 minutes, you can still embed a structure in those 15 minutes. So I'm not going to go into too much detail because this episode just won't be long enough. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be doing this a lot more in depth in the mastermind very soon. But let's look at the phases. I'm going to break down a sales call into 3 phases so that you can really adapt this regardless of the length of your sales calls, or you may call them discovery calls, whatever they are. The first phase is where you just let your potential client take the floor. This phase is all about you listening and using questions to get more information out of your client. The aim here is for you to truly understand that client's expectations, their challenges, their perceptions. And a really useful exercise is to just list a range of open-ended questions, just so you have a bank that you can choose from. Now, when you're sitting there in a call, then you may not have that piece of paper, for example, in front of you, and I don't suggest you do. But the exercise alone gets you thinking. It starts training you to think along those lines, which means it will come very naturally when you're actually having a conversation. If you're worried that you need to practice this, please don't. The exercise alone will be really effective, and you'll be surprised at how much you remember the next time you're speaking to someone. So, some examples of questions may be, what challenges is your child currently experiencing with their learning? Now, I'm saying their learning, we want to be as specific as possible based on our subject or, the thing that they're booking this call for. You may ask, what would success look like to you? Or how do you think they would feel if? And then you give them a scenario. You could also ask, what has and what hasn't worked for you in the past? That gives you such golden information so that you can have a really tailored conversation with them. Now, this isn't just about polite conversation. I mean, there is an element where when someone contacts you, it's in that moment they really want your help. So giving them just that opportunity to air their frustrations, to just to hand everything over to you is really nice for them. It really means that they feel seen and heard. But there is a strategic element to this as well, because the more you listen, the more you will know how to position your offer in the next phase. So phase 2 is about aligning your offer with their needs. Now that you have the full picture, it's time to really pitch what you offer in a tailored way to show how it fits. Now, although I've used that term pitch, and I know that sounds really salesy, this isn't about being generic. It's about speaking and communicating in a way where your offer just feels like a natural solution. It's logical. And it's a really good way of unpicking potential hesitations or something that they may have alluded to. So, for example, let's say a parent tells you that they're hesitant in enrolling their child into group classes, they'd prefer one-to-ones. I'm choosing that because it's probably the most common hesitation that clients ask me about. You can address that hesitation before moving forward, before moving to the closing section of that phone call or that meeting. Now, what's really important is that you don't move on to the third phase until you have addressed all those hesitations. Otherwise, they will linger, they will stay in your client's mind, and that will be another barrier to actually making the sale. Now, I know that I'm talking about making the sale. I will say that, from an ethical point of view, I don't think it's a good idea to try and brute force a solution. If that parent is concerned about, let's say, group classes versus one-to-ones, and it's a really valid concern, protect your reputation. Your reputation will go much further than this one sale. So, if you agree with them, see if you can find them a solution. Maybe you teach them one-to-one, or maybe you refer them to someone. Whatever it may be, they will remember you for being really honest with them and really working with their needs. So let's imagine that you've found out all of their needs, you've addressed some hesitations, you've really framed your offer in a way that's aligned. It's time to move on to phase 3, which is moving them to action. It's the close. So this is where you might talk logistics, pricing. It's where you secure their commitment. And actually, it's a really good idea to prompt the next step. So you could say something like, based on what we've discussed, I'd love to get your child started on Monday. How does that sound? Or you might say, should we get that first session booked in? So you're not being pushy, you're simply leading that conversation to its natural conclusion. Now, of course, things aren't always as linear as that. Sometimes they do need time to think about it. I know that I usually take time to think about things, even if I think I'm going to buy. I'm always worried that I'm going to get buyer's remorse, so I very rarely make a decision there and then, even if I'm pretty much certain. So there's a whole other strategy for what you do afterwards. Right now, I really want to focus on sort of making that sale, but bear in mind that you may need to be open to other possibilities and then to continue that conversation beyond the sales call. So we've talked about having that sales call, and now I want to move us on to a really important part of the strategy. And that is having a clear goal. It's really powerful to have a sales goal. It's something I did with the masterminders when we did our last sales sprint. Again, when you join, you can see that, instant access. And it's something I'll be going into detail because it will form the foundation of the sales strategy. Now, as education business owners, we often resist that corporate style method of setting goals and targets and so on. But these don't have to be aggressive. They don't, you're not going to get a promotion or not get a promotion based on it. You are your own boss. What it gives you is direction. It gives you a really clear focus and it gives you a tangible way to make decisions. Before I set sales goals, I was just trying to always make as many sales as possible. I could never really quite relax. I never knew what was enough. Now I have a very clear target. I know how many sales I would like to make every month in the Tutors Mastermind. And that means once I hit my goal, I can ease off, I can relax. And it means that I'm not always chasing that sale. It means that my marketing kind of shifts focus. It's just feels different, and it feels good different. It also helps me make much better decisions. For instance, when I run a webinar, I know exactly how many signups I need to make, and that then dictates what kind of special offer I might give those people who are in the webinar, or I know what follow-up action to take. And if I don't hit that target, I know exactly how to modify what I'm doing to stay focused on that sales goal. And as I mentioned earlier, it gives me direction. It's like entering a destination into a GPS. There are multiple ways to reach a destination, but without the end goal, you're just driving blindly. So if you want a really effective way to set that goal, come and book a discovery call with me or press the button to join the mastermind. Either way, you will learn how to do it. It's not rocket science, but it's really important that it's realistic, that it's as accurate as possible, and that you have strategies that are feeding into that. Now let's think about our mindset when it comes to sales. One of the biggest obstacles that education business owners face is this fear of being too salesy. But avoiding tried and tested sales methods, it doesn't make sense. Our businesses rely on selling. So the key is to sell in a way that feels really natural to you. And in case you didn't catch what I said earlier, sales isn't about being pushy, or at least it doesn't have to be. In fact, one of the most effective ways of making sales is through relationships. I've been in situations, for instance, where I've been on and off chatting to someone online for about a year before they've started working with me. If I didn't focus on relationships, if I wasn't interested in just getting to know people without an agenda, then they wouldn't have bought from me, because we would have just had that one conversation in my mind. No, they're not going to buy from me, so I won't talk to them again. So relationships actually work really, really effectively. And if you're that way inclined, if you like forming relationships with new people, then you'll find that easy. And if you're not that way inclined, you can adjust. You can adjust how you're building relationships with people. So if you don't want to be having, messages going back and forth, you can create a community, you can create an email list, you can still maintain a relationship with people if you're speaking to them in a one-to-many style setting. So if you think about this podcast, I'm not in a room full of loads of people. Right now, I'm talking to you, but I'm maybe talking to many people. Many people might have headphones in their ears listening to this right now. So you're creating that kind of connection. So there are different ways to do this, but all of it feeds into selling really effectively and avoiding that really pushy conversation. Because if you haven't formed a relationship, so this often happens when people pay for advertising, they don't have a pre-relationship as such with people. So when they then have a call, they often have to go a little harder, they have to spend a little bit more time. And there's no right and wrong here. It's all about you finding your style. But the point is, you want to embrace sales instead of avoiding it. And the only way you're going to embrace it is if you really think about what style suits you, what style really just shines the best light. It's a style you feel so confident with. And sometimes you won't feel totally confident, but it's a muscle that you exercise and you get stronger. And actually, when you see sales or selling as a skill rather than a necessity, then it makes you more receptive to it, because we can learn skills, can't we? So yes, we have to sell in some shape or form, but it's also a skill that we're all capable of learning and we're all capable of relaxing into. Maybe create a sentence of what selling actually means to you. So it might be something like, instead of convincing someone to change their mind, it's about having a natural conversation where I'm helping them and I'm helping them make the best decision for them. That's how I reframe sales in my mind. And that's why I really enjoy selling. because I enjoy helping people. I'm an educator. That's what I do. And so I get a lot of reward from that. And when I'm selling, I feel the same. It's a great feeling when I've had a conversation with someone and they're like, thank you so much. That was really helpful. Even if they say, I'll get back to you, or I'm not sure right now, or this is outside of my budget, it doesn't matter. I still leave feeling great because I have helped them. Now on to a big one, negotiation. I have seen so many countless, Facebook threads where someone has said, oh, this person's asking me for a discount. And then you've got hundreds of people saying, no, they can go somewhere else. And it's your business, it's your rules, and don't discount. And you're undervaluing yourself and all of this. And I don't agree with it. There's a reason why negotiation has been a staple part of selling for years and years and years, all the way back to bartering. It's because it's not a battle. It doesn't have to be a battle. It's a collaboration. We often associate negotiation or entering negotiation as a battle between two people who are trying to lowball each other. But what if it was a conversation where you're creating a win-win situation, something you're both happy with? So if someone asked for a discount, why can't you enter a negotiation? Why can't you say, okay, let's work backwards from that and let me work out what I can offer that fits with that. There, you're not undervaluing yourself. You're making really clear that if they want what you offer, they need to pay the full price, but you're willing to be flexible with what you're offering. You might take a few things away to reflect that discount. So you have to do what kind of works for you and what fits with your business. Maybe offering a discount and taking something away doesn't fit. Maybe it's a different style of negotiation you need to go in the direction of. So instead of going for a discount, maybe you give them a little bit more, or I'm not sure. It really depends. It's difficult for me to be specific here, but I just want to start that conversation for you because it's really important to be open. There is so much value in customer loyalty. I have a lot of people who say to me, oh, you're so lucky. I really wish that I didn't have to advertise my tuition business. Now, firstly, I'll say it didn't happen overnight. And a lot of marketing went behind that. A lot of kind of establishing my name and my reputation went behind that. But also, I do think the work that I do in terms of paying attention to how I can retain my clients and make sure they feel valued, I do think that goes a long way because they're the ones who just recommend me to so many people. So you can't ignore that. That's part of selling, thinking about how you're treating your customers and how you're investing in them. But let's get back to negotiation. Remember, it's a collaboration. So let's say someone says, I can't afford what you offer. Instead of shutting that conversation down because you feel like they're indirectly asking for a discount, maybe they're not. Maybe it's a cash flow issue. So maybe you can offer them a payment plan. Maybe it is a budget issue and you can offer an alternative that suits their budget. The point is you want to make a compromise that works for both of you. So selling doesn't have to be stressful. It doesn't mean that you have to be a different person. You can still be you, but you do want to be strategic. This has to be planned. It has to be well thought out. Otherwise, you're not taking people through the natural buying journey. It's like you've worked so hard to get them on that call. The fact that they booked that call is fantastic. It means whatever you were doing with your marketing and your visibility, it's working. But if you then let go of strategy from that point, then you're not quite taking people to the finish line. And that finish line might look like a sale. It may look like they're not right for you. Either way, if you've done a really good job with that call, if you've really planned it out, you'll be really clear on that. And that's okay because, a sales call is designed to work out whether you're right for one another. So if you want a nice structured approach, something really clear, then come and join us in the mastermind. This is one of the most important pieces of work I think we're doing in here because it doesn't matter how much we're marketing ourselves and how brilliant our content is. Ultimately, our goal is to make sales. That's what we want to do, right? Or at least usually we do. So this is going to be really clear, really methodical, really strategic. And I would love to share it with you if you're not already a masterminder. Anyway, thanks for staying with me and you'll hear from me on Wednesday. Would you like to take this discussion further? Perhaps you have some questions or you'd like more ideas on tailoring your business. If so, book a free discovery call through the link in the show notes.